Good morning. Let me ask you something. Have you ever stood at the edge of your own willpower, staring down a path that felt impossible to walk? Have you ever sat alone asking yourself, why am I doing this? Why should I keep going? You're not alone. But here's the truth no one tells you. The breakthrough you're looking for, the change, it doesn't come when you're motivated. It comes when you're exhausted, overwhelmed, underappreciated, and you choose to keep going anyway. Today, I want to talk about that moment, that decision, that force, not from outside, but from within. Let's explore 7 truths that will help you harness that power and force yourself to keep going. Not because it's easy, but because your future depends on it. When everything screams, give up, your why whispers, just one more step. That whisper, that quiet, resolute voice has changed more lives than the loudest cheer of a crowd ever could. Because in the silence of our struggle, in the solitude of the journey, the why becomes the only thing that keeps us moving forward. It is the anchor in our storms, the fire in our coldest nights, and the truth that remains when everything else fades away. Imagine the single mother working 2 jobs. She wakes before the sun and falls asleep long after it sets. She doesn't grind through 16-hour days because she wants to collect a badge of exhaustion. She doesn't push through aching feet and long shifts for applause. She does it because of that little face waiting at home, the one that believes she can do anything. Her why is watching her. Her why is learning from her. Her why is depending on her, and that why is stronger than her pain. It's bigger than her fatigue. It is the reason she gets up when her body begs to stay down. That's the power of purpose. That's what happens when you understand your why. You gain access to something deeper than motivation, something stronger than inspiration. You access and drive is what carries you when nothing else will. Motivation is a feeling. Purpose is a foundation. Feelings come and go. Foundations hold steady, even when the ground around you shakes. Some people chase money. Some chase fame. Some chase status. But if there's no why behind the chase, it's only a matter of time before they stop running. They burn out. They quit. Or they arrive and feel nothing at all, because they never knew what they were really running for. Success without purpose is the most dangerous kind of failure. You can have everything and still feel empty if you don't know why you wanted it in the first place. Purpose gives pain a reason. It makes struggle sacred. It transforms obstacles from barriers into stepping stones. When you understand your why, hard days aren't just endured. They're embraced, because you know where they're leading. You know what they're building. It doesn't mean you'll love every moment. It means you'll never lose sight of the meaning in those moments. We've all had days when we wanted to quit. Days when the weight of the world felt unbearable. But the people who keep going, the ones who push through when everyone else stops, aren't made of something different. They've simply made a choice to hold on to their why tighter than their excuses. A choice to listen to that whisper in the dark. A choice to believe that their purpose matters more than their pain. Think about the greats, the legends, the leaders. Every one of them had a why that kept them grounded and focused. It wasn't talent alone that set them apart. It was clarity. It was conviction. It was commitment to something greater than themselves. So the question isn't whether you're capable. The question is, what's your reason? What's the fire in your soul that refuses to be extinguished? What's the thing you would fight for even if no one cheered you on? Even if no one believed in you, even if every door closed in your face? Because that thing, that why, is the key to everything. Write it down. Put it on your mirror. Tattoo it on your heart. Make it so clear and so powerful that even on your worst day you can't ignore it. When you're tired, it will remind you why you started. When you're lost, it will guide you home. And when the world tells you it's over, your why will whisper, just one more step. Your dream may not come easy. The road will get rough. There will be moments when doubt feels louder than faith. But remember this, the presence of struggle doesn't mean the absence of purpose. In fact, the harder the path, the more important the destination. The greater the resistance, the greater the reward. If your why doesn't make you emotional, it's not strong enough. If it doesn't bring tears to your eyes or fire to your chest, go deep dig. Until you find the truth that stirs your soul. Because that's what you'll need when the motivation is gone. When the novelty wears off, when the grind becomes real, passion is the spark. Purpose is the fuel. This isn't about positive thinking. This is about purposeful living. It's about aligning your life with something that matters deeply to you. Something that transcends the temporary highs and lows. Something that pulls you forward, even when your legs shake and your voice trembles. Don't just chase goals. Chase meaning. Don't just check boxes. Build legacy. Don't just work hard. Work purposefully. Because the truth is, you were never meant to live a life of quiet desperation. You were born for significance. You were born to make a difference. But that only happens when you know why you're here. Your why might be your children. It might be a dream you've had since you were young. It might be the pain you endured that you now want to transform into healing for others. Whatever it is, own it. Cherish it. Let it shape the way you show up every day. And if you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle for comfort. Don't accept average. Your why is out there waiting for you to discover it. And once you do, you'll never look at life the same way again. You'll stop asking, how do I stay motivated? And start saying, I can't stop now, I know why I started. So when life gets loud, when it tells you it's too hard, too late, too much, listen to the whisper. Listen to that still small voice that says, just one more step. Because that voice is your purpose. That voice is your power. And that voice will never lead you wrong. We live in a world obsessed with highlight reels. The viral video, the $1 million product launch, the stunning transformation. These are the stories we idolize. The moments we celebrate. But what we often fail to see, hidden beneath the glossy finish of success, is the long, quiet, often uncomfortable journey that brought it to life. We don't talk enough about what success really looks like. The unremarkable Tuesdays, the lonely mornings, the repeated reps when no one's watching. We don't talk enough about the boring stuff. But boring doesn't mean meaningless. In fact, it's the boring that builds you. Consistency beats intensity. That truth isn't sexy. It doesn't sell headlines, but it shapes life. Every day you show up, not once, not for a week, but day after day you send a message to yourself that says, I matter. My dreams matter. My vision matters, and I'm willing to put in the work. Even when no one claps, even when no one sees. The greatest form of self-respect is discipline. It's choosing to honor your future self over your current mood. And yet so many people wait. They wait to feel motivated, to feel inspired, to feel ready. But waiting to feel like it is a trap. You cannot build a life of meaning on emotions that change with the wind. The people who build remarkable lives, not just achieve, but build, are the ones who've decided to make doing the work non-negotiable, not optional, not up for debate. They've made showing up their default. Growth isn't a sprint. It's not a grand gesture. It's not a weekend seminar or a single sleepless night of hustle. Growth is brushing your teeth. It's tying your shoes. It's ordinary. It's dull. It's doing the work when it doesn't feel exciting anymore. When the novelty wears off, and all that's left is the grind. But it's in that grind that the magic happens. Small, unnoticeable improvements, compounded over time, create transformation. Imagine this. If you got just 1% better every single day, that's it, just 1%. In 1 year, you'd be 37 times better. That's not a motivational quote. That's not a theory. That's simple, undeniable math. You don't need a breakthrough. You need a habit. You need a process. Because the path to greatness is paved with small choices. Unsexy, inconvenient, consistent choices. There's this illusion that passion will carry you through. That if you really love it, you'll always feel like doing it. But anyone who's ever achieved anything meaningful will tell you that's not how it works. Passion might get you started, but discipline keeps you going. Love may be the spark, but commitment is the fuel. If you're always chasing intensity, the all-nighters, the crash diets, the binge work sessions, you'll burn out. Intensity is like a firework. Loud, bright, short-lived. Consistency is like a candle. Steady, quiet, and long-lasting. It's what lights the path on the days when the goal feels far away. It's what whispers, keep going, when your doubts start to scream. And it's what builds trust, not just with others, but with yourself. Because every time you follow through on a commitment, no matter how small, you tell yourself, I can count on me. That's how confidence is built. Not by praise, not by achievement, but by self-trust. And self-trust is forged in repetition. So write the page, make the call, take the walk, not because it's epic, not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. Because that page, that call, that walk, They are the bricks in the foundation of your future. And the most important things in life are rarely urgent. They're easy to put off, easy to ignore, but they're also the things that, if done consistently, change everything. We often overestimate what we can do in a day and underestimate what we can do in a year, or 5, or 10. Stop trying to win today. Focus on winning the decade. Play the long game, because the people who quietly stack days full of effort, full of focus, full of small wins, are the ones who seemingly out of nowhere break through. And the world calls it overnight success. But it's not, it never is. It's years of work collapsing into a moment of recognition. A moment that only makes sense when you've lived the 1,000 that came before it. And if you're in the middle of the mundane, don't rush it. Don't resent it. Respect it. Embrace the boring, because that's where your character is being shaped. That's where your mindset is being forged. And that's where your future is being written. Not with grand gestures, but with daily choices. Anyone can show up when it's fun, when it's new, when there's applause. But what separates leaders from dreamers, doers from talkers, finishers from starters, is the willingness to show up anyway, without motivation, without certainty, without results, just faith in the process and belief that the compounding effect of effort will one day tip the scale. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And your system is simply what you do every day. So take pride in your routine. Take pride in the reps. Be the person who doesn't need a stage to keep going. Be the person who shows up when no one's watching. Because that's who ends up on the stage later. The world might not be watching yet, but your future self, and they're counting on you to keep going. So embrace the boring. That's where the real work happens. That's where your greatness is born. Pain is one of those rare experiences in life that unites us all. It doesn't care about your background, your job title, or your bank account. It's universal. We all encounter it: physical pain, emotional hurt, the ache of disappointment, the sting of failure. And yet, while many people see pain as the enemy, something to be avoided, something to run from, the truth is far more profound. Pain is proof you're progressing. There's a saying in the military: embrace the suck. It sounds harsh, almost crass, but it holds a powerful truth. Discomfort, difficulty, struggle, they're not punishments. They're not random. They're not signals that something is wrong. In fact, they're often the clearest signs that something is going right. Because real progress, the kind that changes you at your core, never comes dressed in ease or comfort. It arrives wrapped in challenge. Think of a runner nearing the 20th mile of a marathon. Her legs are on fire, her breathing ragged, her body pleading for her to stop. But that pain, that's the threshold. That's the moment where she's not just running a race anymore. She's being redefined by it. That pain is her proof. It's the transformations. It says, you're no longer who you were. You're stepping into something more. So many of us spend our lives avoiding discomfort. We seek safety, predictability, familiarity, but growth doesn't live there. Growth doesn't knock politely on your door with a cup of tea. Growth kicks the door in. It disrupts. It unsettles. It makes you question if you have what it takes. And then if you stay with it long enough, it reveals what you're made of. Pain then isn't a stop sign. It's a signal. It's a flashing beacon saying, you're on the edge of something great. You're stretching your limits, breaking through ceilings, shedding who you were to make space for who you're becoming. And the amazing thing is that we can choose how we see that signal. We can let it shrink us, or we can reframe it. We can say, this is hard, but this is where I grow. Think about the most meaningful moments in your life. Were they easy? Were they without challenge? Or were they forged in fire, in heartbreak, in risk, in uncertainty? Those moments might have left scars, but they also left strength. They taught you resilience. They forced you to dig deeper, to believe harder, to show up even when everything in you wanted to quit. There's a strange beauty in pain. It sharpens us. It clarifies what matters. It strips away the superficial and reveals what we truly value. Pain has a way of waking us up, shaking us out of complacency, and reminding us that we're alive, and that being alive is not about ease. It's about becoming. And it's not just personal. Organizations, movements, societies, they all grow through pain. They evolve because something stops working. Something breaks. Innovation is born from frustration. Progress is driven by discomfort with the status quo. The greatest leaders in history didn't rise because things were easy. They rose because things were hard. And they decided to lean into the pain rather than away from it. So the next time you're tempted to retreat, to numb, to distract yourself from the discomfort, pause. What if this moment right now is your mile? What if this ache, this challenge, this failure, is the very thing ushering in your transformation? What if the pain is not there to defeat you, but to refine you? When you feel resistance, when the path feels uphill and your legs are burning, and your heart is pounding, don't turn around. Don't ask for relief. Ask for strength. Ask for perspective. Remind yourself that pain is part of the process, not the punishment. Reframe the story you tell yourself. Instead of "why is this happening to me?" ask "what is this preparing me for?" Instead of saying "this hurts," try saying "this is working." Because the truth is, pain is the price of progress. You cannot have one without the other. It's in the pain that you become powerful. And if you really think about it, the people who inspire us the most, the ones whose lives we admire, they're not the ones who avoided pain, they're the ones who walked through it with courage and came out on the other side with wisdom, strength and compassion. They're the ones who let the pain shape them instead of shame them, who used it as fuel instead of fear. So let it be your signal. Let it remind you that you're alive, that you're growing, that something important is happening. Pain is proof that the work is real, that you're not coasting, that you're reaching, that you're alive in the fight. Don't run from it. Don't resent it. Honor it, because the only way to become who you're meant to be is to endure what you were never meant to settle for. Keep going. This is where you grow. Imagine standing at the edge of a decision, the kind of moment where quitting feels easier than continuing. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you're discouraged. Maybe it just hurts. We've all been there. That point where your will is flickering and doubt is whispering. In that moment there's a person silently watching you. They don't speak, they don't intervene, but they are deeply invested in what you choose next. That person is you, not you today, but you 5 years from now. The version of you who will live with the outcome of this moment. Close your eyes and picture them. Really see them. Are they smiling, healthy, thriving? Are they surrounded by love, purpose and pride? Or do they wear regret in their eyes? Are they carrying the weight of the chances you didn't take? The promises you broke to yourself? The goals you left half-finished because the road got hard? We often think of discipline as a punishment, like something that takes away freedom. But discipline isn't about restriction. It's about investment. It's about placing small, intentional deposits into the bank of your future life. It's a gift, a quiet act of self-respect. And every time you choose to show up, every time you decide to keep going when it would be easier to stop, you are honoring the person you will become. I once met a man who changed the way I see perseverance forever. He was 200 pounds overweight and had tried everything: diets, routines, short bursts of motivation, only to fall back each time. Then one morning, something shifted. He walked to the fridge, took a photo of his 6-year-old son, and wrote 4 words beneath it: "Be there for graduation." He placed it where he'd see it every day, and suddenly, it wasn't just about him anymore. It wasn't about looking better or chasing some fleeting image of health. It was about showing up for someone he loved. And more importantly, it was about becoming a man his future self could be proud of. That picture became his lighthouse. On the days he didn't want to move, it pulled him forward. On the nights when the cravings were louder than reason, it kept him anchored. And over time, pound by pound, he carved his way back to life. Not because he had superhuman willpower, but because he stopped living only for the man in the mirror, and started living for the man who would look back years later and say, "Thank you for not giving up on me." Every single one of us has a version of ourselves waiting on the other side of hard work. They are stronger, wiser, more fulfilled. They laugh more freely. They love more deeply, but they don't appear by accident. They are forged in fire, in the small silent victories we win when no one's watching. They are born in the moments we choose to rise, instead of retreat. So ask yourself, what kind of future are you building? Every skipped workout, every snoozed alarm, every ignored opportunity, it all adds up. But so does every small win, every extra step you take, every time you bite your tongue and choose grace, every dollar saved, every chapter read, every hard conversation initiated. They compound, they accumulate, they matter. We live in a world obsessed with instant gratification. Likes, clicks, quick results. But real transformation is slow. It's boring. It's often invisible. No one claps for you when you choose broccoli over fries. No one throws a parade because you journaled instead of scrolling. But your future self notices, and they're keeping score. Think of the last time you achieved something meaningful. Not something handed to you, but something you earned. Maybe it was finishing school, getting clean, rebuilding trust, writing that first page, or saying no when every cell in your body screamed yes. Think of how you felt afterward. That quiet pride, that internal yes, that realization that you did it. That's the currency your future self lives on. But here's the truth. Not everyone gets to feel that. Because most people stop. They get close, then quit. They rationalize. They postpone. They say next week, next month, someday. And someday becomes never. Not because they weren't capable, but because they didn't have a reason strong enough to override their excuses. What if you made your future self your reason? What if you could see that person right now? Older, more experienced, weathered by life, but full of stories, of memories, of meaning. And what if they could speak? What would they say? Maybe they'd say, "Thank you for enduring the pain so I could live in peace." Or maybe they'd ask, "Why did you stop when you were so close?" You get to choose which conversation happens. The beautiful and terrifying part is that time doesn't pause. Every day you're moving closer to that version of yourself. The only question is, which direction are you heading? And don't make the mistake of thinking this is just about big goals. It's not just about weight loss, promotions, or accolades. It's about character. It's about who you become through the process. Because the journey changes you, the discipline molds you, and when you look back, it's not just about what you accomplished. It's about what you became in the process of not giving up. So next time you want to quit, when the bed is warm and the world feels heavy, and the voice in your head says, "It doesn't matter," remember this: it does. Because your future self is watching, and they're counting on you. People spend so much time waiting for the right feeling, the right spark, the right day. They tell themselves that once they feel motivated, once they feel ready, they'll begin. But what if that day never comes? What if the spark never lights? Does that mean your goals go unfulfilled, your dreams unlived? We have built a culture that worships motivation. We scroll through quotes, watch viral videos, and listen to speakers who deliver a rush of excitement like caffeine. It jolts you briefly, then it fades, and you're back where you started, still waiting. But what if we've been chasing the wrong thing all along? What if the secret isn't found in motivation at all, but in something far more powerful? Momentum? Motivation is a feeling. Momentum is a force. Motivation whispers to you when things feel good. Momentum shoves you forward even when they don't. One is fleeting. The other, if you build it, becomes unstoppable. You don't need to feel like doing something to do it. That's the myth we need to kill. We've been conditioned to believe that action is born from feeling, that we act because we feel inspired, energized, or confident. But it's actually the other way around. Feeling follows action. The confidence, the clarity, the motivation we crave, all of it is the result of doing, not the prerequisite for it. Think about it. How many times have you forced yourself to start something, a workout, a conversation, a difficult task, and halfway through felt better, stronger, more capable? That's not coincidence. That's physics. Newton's first law tells us a body at rest stays at rest, and a body in motion stays in motion. That doesn't just apply to apples and planets. It applies to us. You see, the most successful, the most fulfilled, the most impactful people, they don't rely on motivation. They rely on rhythm. They rely on momentum. They understand that the hardest part isn't the work, it's starting the work. So they make starting easy. They set the bar so low that it's impossible to fail. One push-up, one email, one sentence. Because one becomes two, two becomes five, five becomes a habit. And habits build lives. When you move even a little, you shift. Something inside you changes. Your brain stops swirling with doubt and starts focusing on direction. That movement creates clarity. That clarity creates energy. That energy fuels more movement. Suddenly, you're not waiting anymore. You're doing. You're building. You're becoming. And the truth is, beginnings are almost always messy. They're uncomfortable. They're awkward. You feel slow, uncertain, exposed, but that mess is sacred. It's the soil from which everything meaningful grows. Too many people avoid the mess because they're afraid it means they're doing something wrong. But it's actually proof that they're doing something brave, something new, something real. Momentum doesn't come from perfection. It comes from progress. And progress doesn't require motivation, it only requires a decision. The decision to move, to start, to push the first domino, knowing the rest will fall in time. Imagine if you stopped waiting for motivation and just started moving. Imagine the life you could build if you trusted in momentum. Every day, one small action. Every day, one small victory. That's how mountains are moved. That's how legacies are built. That's how people who once doubted themselves become leaders, creators, trailblazers. You don't need to see the whole path to take the first step, and you don't need to be inspired to get moving. Because the truth is, the more you move, the more inspired you'll feel. You'll look back and realize that the confidence you were waiting for was quietly growing behind you the whole time. It was being built in your footsteps. There's a reason people feel powerful when they're in motion. Momentum whispers, you're doing it, even when the work is hard, especially when the work is hard. Because action is an act of defiance against stagnation. It's a declaration that you're not waiting on life to hand you something. You're going to go out and create it. You're not a machine that needs to be perfectly fueled before you start running. You're a human being, and you're capable of starting with what you have, where you are. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need to be. Because once you begin, the universe shifts. Opportunities appear. People show up. Possibilities expand. So let go of the fantasy that one day you'll wake up and feel ready. That one day you'll be fearless. That one day the path will be clear and the motivation overwhelming. That day doesn't come. But this day, today, is real. This moment is real. This is your spark. Not because it feels like one, but because you decide it is. You have no idea how much power lives inside a single act. A single moment of courage. A single choice to move forward, even if it's imperfect. If it's imperfect, that's where transformation lives. Not in the grand gesture, but in the tiny push. So stop waiting to feel like it. The feeling will follow the doing. And every time you choose action over hesitation, you're rewriting your story. You're proving to yourself that you are capable, that you are disciplined, that you are resilient. Because momentum doesn't just change your productivity, it changes your identity. When you start seeing yourself as someone who moves, who starts, who builds, everything else becomes possible. You become the kind of person who doesn't wait for life to happen. You make life happen. And that's the kind of person who changes the world. Not through bursts of motivation, but through the quiet, relentless, courageous act of beginning again and again. Imagine tending to a piece of earth every single day. You wake up early, carry water to it, protect it from pests, make sure the soil is just right, and then nothing. A week passes, nothing. A month, a year, even 2 years, still nothing. You begin to wonder if you've made a mistake, if maybe the seed you planted was faulty, if maybe you're just not cut out for this. But in truth, what you've been nurturing is something extraordinary, something that doesn't just break the surface like a weed after a storm, but something that takes root deep into the earth before showing even a sliver of itself above ground. That's the story of the bamboo tree. For 5 long years, nothing seems to happen. And then in a matter of just a few weeks, it shoots up to 90 feet tall. That kind of growth doesn't happen overnight. It happens because of every day spent in patience, in silence, in discipline. And isn't that exactly like our dreams? We live in a world obsessed with instant results. We celebrate the overnight success, not realizing that night may have lasted years. We scroll through highlight reels on our phones and forget that behind every triumphant moment is a mountain of unseen labor. And yet when our own results aren't immediate, we panic. We question our worth, we compare, we doubt, we shrink. But that's only because we've mistaken silence for absence and slow progress for failure. Let me ask you this. How often have you merely walked away from something, not because it wasn't worth it, but because it didn't give you applause fast enough? How often have you quit because your progress didn't look like someone else's? Maybe you thought, if it was meant to be, it would have happened by now. That's the dangerous lie we tell ourselves. We confuse effort with futility just because the payoff isn't instant. But the truth is, you don't plant a seed and dig it up every week to check if it's growing. You trust, you water, you believe, and what's growing underneath isn't just roots, it's resilience, character, endurance, the kind of strength that doesn't just help you succeed once, but sustains you through every wave, every storm, every setback. The bamboo doesn't question the process. It doesn't ask why it's taking so long. It simply stays rooted, trusting that its time will come. And when it does, the growth is explosive, unstoppable, undeniable. You may be in your third year right now, or your fourth. Maybe you've been grinding, showing up, sacrificing sleep, comfort, even relationships, to chase something nobody else can see. And maybe, deep down, you're starting to wonder if you're the fool. If you've bet everything on a dream that's never going to break the surface. But let me tell you, what looks like stagnation is often just preparation. The universe isn't denying you, it's developing you. Think about the breakthroughs in your life. Were they really as sudden as they seemed? Or did they come after a series of days, weeks, months, where you thought nothing was happening? When you wanted to give up but didn't? When you kept showing up even when no one noticed? That's where transformation happens. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. When no one is clapping, when no one sees. That's when you become the kind of person who's ready for the weight of what's coming. Because here's the truth. If you're not ready for the height, the fall will destroy you. But if your roots are deep, if your foundation is strong, then when your time comes, you won't just rise, you'll soar. But you have to keep watering. Even when you're tired. Even when your friends don't understand. Even when you're scared out of your mind. You have to show up. Not because it's easy. Not because it's guaranteed. But because you believe. That belief, that quiet, stubborn, relentless belief, is what separates the dreamers from the doers. It's what turns ideas into legacies. And yes, some days will feel like failure. You'll have moments where nothing makes sense, where the silence is deafening, where you wonder if all this work is leading anywhere at all. That's okay, feel it. But don't quit. Don't confuse the quiet before the bloom as a sign that you're on the wrong path. Sometimes it's the calm before everything changes. There's a version of you waiting on the other side of this discipline. A version stronger, wiser, and far more powerful than you've ever imagined. But you only meet that version by going through the process. You can't skip the struggle and expect the strength. You can't rush the bloom and expect the roots to hold. The journey matters. Every unseen act of courage matters. Every tear, every early morning, every lonely night, it's all part of the becoming. So don't walk away now. Not when you're this close. Not when the roots are almost ready to give rise to something monumental. Keep watering. Keep trusting. Keep believing in the miracle you can't see yet. Because one day, maybe soon, you'll wake up and everything will change. That dream will shoot up with such force, such velocity, that people will call it luck. They'll say it happened overnight. But you'll know the truth. You'll know the years it took. You'll know the discipline it required. You'll know the pain you had to push through just to stand where you are. So plant the seed, water it daily, nurture it with belief. And when the world questions why you haven't given up yet, smile and keep going. Because your bamboo moment is coming. Let's pause for a sec, not just to breathe, but to remember. To remember the weight you've carried, the silent battles no one saw, the long nights where it felt like you were building something from ashes, with bare hands, the moments you were on the edge, not just of failure, but of giving up entirely. And yet somehow you didn't. You chose to keep going. You've come too far to only come this far. That sentence isn't just a catchy phrase. It's a truth that demands your attention. It's a whisper from that part of you that refuses to be silenced. That part that knows exactly how much you've sacrificed. The part that remembers the tears, the doubts, the loneliness. The part that has always believed that there's something more for you, even when the world did. Because this isn't the end. Not even close. Think about the path behind you. Not the wins. Not just the wins, but the scars. Each one tells a story. Each one is proof. Proof that you've survived. That you've adapted. That you've grown. Every setback that tried to define you was just a comma, not a period. And here you are, still standing. That's not luck. That's not coincidence. That's you. But sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we get tired. Sometimes the fire inside us flickers, and we begin to wonder if we're even meant to keep going. We look at others, further ahead, seemingly more successful, and we start comparing our behind the scenes to their highlight reel. And in those quiet, vulnerable moments, we start to question everything. Why am I doing this? Is this even worth it? Am I enough? And if you've ever asked those questions, then you're human. Because people who never ask those questions are either lying or they've never cared deeply enough to begin with. Doubt isn't a weakness. It's a signal. A reminder that you're on a journey that matters. You didn't come this far to stop now. You came this far because you were meant to push further. Because somewhere in your heart you knew that your story wasn't done yet. That there's another chapter waiting to be written. That the impact you're meant to make is still unfolding. There's a fire in you. And even if it feels like it's dimmed to an ember, it hasn't gone out. You know it. Deep down, you know it. That ache you feel when you imagine giving up. That tightness in your chest when you consider settling. That's your fire. That's your purpose refusing to be buried. It's time to reignite it. Not with grand gestures or perfect plans, but with one choice. One small step. That's all it takes. The decision to try again. To speak up. To show up. To fight for what you believe in. To remember who you are. Really are under all the noise and pressure and expectation. This isn't about being fearless. This is about being courageous. Fear shows up for everyone. Courage is choosing to act anyway. And you've done that already. You've done it more times than you probably give yourself credit for. So why stop now? The people who change the world aren't always the loudest. They're not always the ones with the perfect resumes or the perfect lives. They're the ones who refuse to stop. The ones who know that the journey isn't easy, but still believe it's worth it. And you've already proven that you belong in that category. Because here you are, showing up, listening, searching, wanting to grow, wanting to do more, be more, give more. That desire in your chest, that's the spark. That's all you need to begin again. To keep climbing, to keep creating. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's exhausting. But what's the alternative? To stay stuck. To silence that voice inside that knows you were meant for more. You weren't born to play small. You weren't born to settle. You were born to make waves. To inspire, to build, to lead. Even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Because there's someone out there who needs what you've got. Your story, your resilience, your ideas, your perspective. You might not know who they are yet, but they're waiting. Waiting for you to rise. Waiting for you to keep going. Waiting for you to show them what's possible. So let's go back to where we started. Take a breath. Think about everything you've already endured. Every setback you turned into a lesson. Every closed door that led to something better. Every moment you thought was the end, but turned out to be the beginning of something far more powerful. You didn't come this far just to build a resume. You didn't come this far just to impress others. You came this far because you were meant to light the way for yourself and for others. You've carried so much. You've fought through storms. You've chosen growth over comfort, and you're still standing. That isn't weakness. That's strength. That's the kind of strength the world needs right now. So no, this isn't the end of your journey. This is the turning point. The place where everything before now has prepared you for everything that's to come. And you're ready. That fire in you, it never left. Let it burn again. Let it guide you. Let it remind you. You've come too far to only come this far. So here's the challenge. Force yourself to keep going. Not because you feel like it, Not because it's fun, but because you owe it to the version of you that refused to quit. Because your story, the one people will one day tell in awe, starts with the moment you said, I kept